Bola, namaste and welcome to our presentation. We thank the organizations for this opportunity to present in the international conference, The Old and New Indenture, under the subtopic Labor Practices and Human Rights. The topic for today's presentation is factors influencing remittances to Fiji from former Indo-Fijians to the United States of America. The presenters for this Zoom session is Sharnit Gosai, Dr. Sunil Kumar, and Ashna Devi. Just to highlight the presenters for this session. For research paper is Sharnit, which is me. I'm an assistant lecturer with Fiji National University. I'll be doing the first part, looking into the introduction and migration statistics. Ms. Ashna Devi is a master student from United States of America. She will discuss the methods used to collect data and give examples through personal experiences, while Professor Kumar will discuss from University of Fiji, and discuss the purpose of remittances sent to Fiji and discuss the data. Presentation outline, we have introduction, then we move on to the migration of Indo-Fijians pre and post of 1987. We'll talk about methodology and remittances sent by former Indo-Fijians. The fourth point is why do Indo-Fijians send remittances to Fiji? We'll talk about economic status of former Indo-Fijians to USA and some concluding remarks. The introduction, it's eminent the remittances has a very important to our economic development. The impact is on the short to long run. We know that migration has impact to parental issues. We look into the contributing factors such as mitigating effects of domestic economic shocks, such as natural disasters. You know, it contributes towards poverty alleviation. It supports families and during the times of need. In migration, when compared to of mother and father, especially to the mother side, when the mother migrates, which is a social challenges, is separation of families. When a mother migrates, the kids are left with grandparents or other families. This loneliness will traumatize the young children, and kids' attachments to parents is broken, and this affects their behavior while growing up. Now, something is known that in Australia, regardless of high remittances, Australian-New Zealand migration is harmful. Is such because members of Fiji do migrate to abroad and start working, especially to the skilled workforce, and Fiji starts to have shortage of skilled labor. Well, regardless of these continuous remittances we are receiving, family bonding becomes vulnerable, especially with looking to when the parents, the head of household that really migrates to the neighboring country to work for 3 years, particularly, and return back to his home nation, his married life or practically with the bonding with his family is not the same. In this table, we look into the migration of Indo-Fijians, and we can see the numbers are quite high. Since 78 till 2012, more than 122,000 Indo-Fijians has actually migrated globally. Now, it's something that we need to see that total of Fiji citizen migration Indo-Fijians has been around 81.6%. This is a massive migration of Indo-Fijians that came in 1987 to 1999 period. Now we know that the 87 period was the first political coup that caused the migration skyrocketed. In that particular period of 87 to previous years, 40,000 of Indo-Fijians that migrated from between 79 to 86 and 87 to 99. In comparison, you can see Indo-Fijians has migrated in large numbers compared to any other ethnicity in Fiji. In this graph, you will see that it talks about the number of migration that has happened, in particular from the 1990s till 2019. Since 87, we can estimate that around 55 to 60,000 Fiji citizens has migrated to the United States. The current stats shows around 50,000, while Australia holds the highest migration by volume, however New Zealand is the second. You can see the top 5 countries as listed from bottom to top, and the top 5 as counts are Australia, New Zealand, United States, Canada, and United Kingdom. And this data table talks about volume of remittances. Look into the volume of remittances. Regardless of high volume of remittances we receive, it is noted that Fiji has also been sending remittances abroad. And in the first column, you'll see inflows of remittances that has been in millions of USD. The second line talks about the remittances outflows of millions in USD, while the third one talks about the net flows of remittances, which is the difference between the inflows and the outflows. The net OAD, official development assistance, it can be seen between 2015 to 2019, it has been averaged above 100 million USD. The graph is just a general overview to highlight the table we have presented to you earlier. Regardless of remittances that has been sent to family for consumption, building houses, paying debts, paying school fees, and other things. Other side of the story tells that regardless of good and positive contribution, the first family that were actually part of working labor are now migrated and send remittances are lost to Fiji in terms of skilled labor, but again in terms of cash economy. The next slide is all about methodology, and I would like to give it to Ashna the floor to present on methodology and experiences. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon all. Today I will be covering about a methodology section and also share personal insights and experience on how families immigrate to the United States from Fiji. The survey was conducted in the United States, mostly in the state of California, targeting communities where immigrants from Fiji are resided. The survey method was conducted through Microsoft Office via Zoom forums. And the result received was 220 participants, from which 141 were Indo-Fijians. All the respondents who participate in this survey were migrated to the United States in the year between 1960s to the year 2020. So let me share about my personal experience. Moving to the next slide. That's the slide. No. Go back to the other slide. Yes, thank you. So families remit back because we still have loved ones in Fiji. That's what people in the United States, that's what they believe. Through the remittance, families are able to meet their desired needs. Also, families here, they gather in communities and do charity works and fundraising so they can support any needy families in Fiji during the cyclone season or storm, any type of disaster. Let me share my personal experience. I've been residing in the United States for more than 15 years now. And after I graduated from university, I started working. I started sending remittance to my close related families, for example, my grandparents. Every year, it averaged about $2,000 USD. While doing the survey and gathering all the data, I was fascinated to collect the information and understand how much remittance are sent to Fiji annually by Indo-Fijians from United States. The average of each time took to fill out the forms were about 10 to 15 minutes, and we faced self-selection bias. However, we were confident that there was less errors made. The data will be relooked into when the paper will be further extended. The interesting fact that regardless of the families and left in Fiji during the economic hardship and the coup-related problems, Indo-Fijians continue to show affection to people in Fiji. Families like mine, we have no blood related families in Fiji left anymore, yet we continue to send remittance to our friends. After we get to meet our friends, now we start sending money to our friends and family instead of our blood related families. Long distance and even long distance families that need extra support. And now I will give the speaker to Dr. Sunil, and he'll continue from here.
Thank you, Ashna. So far, you have seen, you have heard what the issues are. We are trying to determine what are some of the fundamental reasons for former Indo-Fijians residing in the US to be sending remittances to Fiji. There are common, understanding They are common, kind of, people believe that this is the reason or that is the reason, some negative, some positive. But as you know, it's a global phenomena. Largely, it's about family commitment. It could be social commitment. When people have already lived some bit of their lives in a country, they would have some attachment, particularly the early part of their lives or lives. So that is the sentiment which is always there. And in some cases where the driving idea is, business, it could actually be about property acquisition, and people keep their contact with their former countries where they grew up. And of course, they also see certain opportunities out there. So here we have some data and we would want to go over it. These are the basic questions that we asked. Do you have any blood relatives and families residing in Fiji? 70%, nearly 70%. If we, minus the biases that might be there, I think it would stick around at that point. 70% of people have some kind of, blood relations in Fiji, and about 30 said no. Do you send remittances? 82% said yes. So you can imagine there is a short gap out there, which probably tells us that some people are sending money even when they do not have blood relations. It could possibly be extended families, or it could be, some other family relations, non-blood family relations. So this is a huge percentage proportion of people living in the US who send monies back to Fiji. All right, so we tried to find out how much these people are sending. 4,000 USD per year, more, or 4,000 USD. Nearly 20% said yes. That's the amount they send. And in Fiji dollars, that would be about 9,000. Now, that's a huge amount of money that people are sending per year back to Fiji. And that is why we see Reserve Bank data showing huge amount of remittances. More than 3,000, about 30%. More than 2,000, about 60%. More than $1,000, which in Fiji dollars would be about 2,100, about 70%. Now, this is huge amounts of money that are flowing into Fiji. Would you invest in Fiji in future? Only about 50% said yes. The rest, said no. Probably they didn't have any interest per se, for the reason that Fiji, Fiji is a small country. But of course, there are, business opportunities, and the people would want to retain some kind of association with the country, with its people, and so on, because it is attached with the sentiment. I would assume, this is a fading phenomena. Nonetheless, if things are good, then that particular relationship can actually be perpetuated at least to 2 or 3 generations. So that would be good for Fiji. How are we going to do that? It all depends, but I think socially we are inclined towards it, which I think already is happening. What was your estimated annual income? So we wanted also to know what kind of income they were earning before they left, and whether that would be a test with their sentiments. Okay, so more than 20,000, about 23%, could be 25. More than 10,000, that's about 66, 67, 70%, and less than 10,000 would be 18%. So this is the kind of varied income strata we observed in our data. Whether this is dead on, we don't know, but I think it would be pretty close. Save the self-selection bias that may be there. All right, the amount of the earnings people make out in US isn't too bad. You can see 50,000 US would be under 10 Fijian dollars, under 10,000 Fijian dollars, and about 18.4% of our people who left USP, left Fiji, are earning that amount of money. So that's a big, huge percentage which are actually earning 50,000 US and over. And you can see this, the rest of it looks pretty interesting. Even when per capita income in US is 65,000 US now, which is huge, US is probably the richest country in the world. Nonetheless, these people who have migrated are, just settling down. They might actually be building their houses. They might actually be, getting into their, professions or studies or whatever. So taking that into consideration, our Fiji former citizens are not doing bad. So if this kind of trend continues, you would expect, monies to continue to flow back to Fiji. Do you currently own any property? Only 8%, maybe 9%, maybe 10% say yes. The rest don't have any properties or property holdings in Fiji, which means that much of the remittances that are coming would actually be attached to the sentiments they hold. From which country did you attain your highest qualification? Largely from Fiji. Huh? So the people who people who have already done their degrees or their diplomas here would have migrated. Whether this has some linkages with that sentiment, we don't know yet. We have not done any cross-tabs of this data for the lack of software, but we are going to do that in due course. When we write the full paper, we are going to do a check on this. We'll do some tests on this and figure out whether there are some linkages between, some of these variables we are observing. So I think that is about all. Our sample was small, around 140 or something. That's not too bad for a small research, but we are going to extend this research further on to derive a little bit better, more accurate results. But also we will go on to do some more in-depth analysis of the data. So if there are any questions, we would be willing to answer. For now, thank you very much for listening, Dhanbad.